Well, after a pretty difficult week for Luton Town against arguably the two best teams in the country playing at top form, we are back today for Matchday 27 predictions for the Premier League season, as well as a look ahead to a big game on Saturday Night Football as Luton Town host Aston Villa. We're going to run through all of the fixtures for this weekend later on and give our predictions. And of course, I'll encourage you to do the same in the comments. Give me your predictions for Matchday 27. And if you beat or match my score, you get a shout out in the next recap when we return for Matchday 28. But for now, we're going to focus on the big game on Saturday night as we look ahead to Luton Town versus Aston Villa at Kenilworth Road. A 5:30 kickoff, which means at least the second half should be under the lights, which may be a benefit. But my God, it wasn't against Manchester City, was it? Probably the day where Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland came back to their best. And let's be fair, the way Luton are setting up now was always going to play into the hands of City because we're trying to be aggressive, we're trying to be front-footed and leave one-on-one defensively. And of course, we did get down to the bare bones again defensively. You saw Joe Johnson, the young academy product, coming on at centre-half for a few minutes. Then in the second half, Alfie Doughty switched in there. We also had the new Japanese international come on for his debut. Probably not an ideal game for it to play in a back five. But I think arguably the biggest miss in midweek was not having a natural holding midfielder. Someone like particularly Nakamba, but Lokonga as well, who could have filled that duty just with that defensive awareness. I was a little surprised Clark was selected ahead of Pelly with Barkley. I thought Pelly was excellent when he came on. But Clark obviously popped up with 2 goals despite making a slight mistake for the first one for City. But let's just remember that game for what it was. In Erling Haaland, and particularly in Kevin De Bruyne, I'd argue I probably watched the best player I've ever seen at Kenilworth Road in my lifetime. I don't think I've ever seen a performance like it. I think he got 4 of the assists in the end. And to be honest, as much as it was disappointing to lose, it was a joy to watch. They were absolutely phenomenal. And for the rest of the season, I think they're hitting top form at the right time. And to be fair, Luton also had that misfortune the Wednesday before against Liverpool up at Anfield. In the first half, we frustrated them. Bene got the opener. We could have had a second, to be fair. But at half-time, Jurgen Klopp must have said something because the second half, I think he said it himself, probably the best Liverpool have played in years. And my God, were they unbelievable. So, look, not the 2 games that are going to define Luton's season by any means. And 2 games that we would have expected no points and to exit the cup from. However, now we've got a stretch of home games, probably after this one, that are all games against team in and around us. We've got to face the likes of Nottingham Forest and Everton at home. Brentford have still got to come to Kenilworth Road. We've got to go to Crystal Palace, etc., etc. Fulham at home as well. The list goes on. So it's going to be a very important finish to the season for Luton. And this is probably, of the home games remaining, the last of the bonus games because Aston Villa have got themselves into a very big race for the top 4. And to be fair, when we went to Villa Park earlier in the season, okay, we were a little bit more limited at the time. We didn't have people such as Lokonga available. It was actually Osho's first game back, wasn't it? And he came in and did just under an hour. But Aston Villa at the time were exceptional. It was the spell during their 12-game winning run at home. They were unbeatable at the time. And they look completely dominant. However, they have had their frailties on the road at times, albeit they picked up a brilliant 5-0 win at Sheffield United recently and will be wanting to avoid that. Ollie Watkins is still in form, is still firing. They've got a lot of quality from midfield. And of course, the way they play that setup of 4 in midfield is always very clever, with the wide players cutting in and almost playing like a box midfield. So with Luton only playing 2 or 3 in there, it is going to make it a bit trickier and it's going to force those centre-halves, as we've seen in other games, to go in with midfielders and be brave and aggressive and leave a one-on-one for Watkins. Now, hopefully that won't end quite as badly as it did against Erling Haaland. I'm sure it won't be quite that bad. And fingers crossed we can get a couple of people fit. Doubts on the likes of Adebayo, Lokonga and Osho. Really, we could do with all 3 of those. Key players in the spine of the team, and you saw in the last 2 games what happens when we don't have them. We're not quite the same proposition, certainly physically at the very least. So it's going to make this a difficult game to predict. I can actually see it being quite an entertaining game because most Luton ones have been recently, let's be honest. And the way we're playing, we are going to get some beatings, but against those sides who are maybe a bit more passive, it's going to give us a better chance of winning games. So towards the end of the season, it might give us a chance in a fight. I do think it might make this game a little tricky. I'm not sure it'll be quite as one-sided as it was at Villa Park, where we were just excited to get possession towards the end. And we had to be gifted a goal by them, didn't we? But I'm going to go I'm going to go for a fairly tight game, but I'm going to go for Aston Villa to nick it. I think there's going to be goals. I think there's going to be entertainment. I'm banking on Adebayo being fit and in there up front. And I'm going to go for Aston Villa to win by 3 goals to 2 at Kenilworth Road. Of course, given the Everton points reduction, that won't be an ideal result. But let's move on to the rest of the weekend's action and see how we think Everton and the rest of the sides are going to do. To do that, we need to have a quick look back, though, at Matchday 26 and have a recap of how we got on in the last match day, because I picked up 9 points in the end with 1 perfect score. And actually, the match day was decided between myself and the other person at the top of the leaderboard by the final minute between Brighton and Everton, where a 1-1 draw lost me my point and gained someone else 3. But for me, 3 points for Wolves' 1-0 win against Sheffield United. It was the exact game I predicted. And then 6 other correct outcomes gave me 9 overall, which put me second in the match day. But a big shout out to one of our regulars, Chris Welch, who picked up 11 points overall, and that included the perfect score for Brighton Everton right at the end. But you've got to say fair play, 9 correct outcomes out of 10 is an incredible effort in that weekend. Only United Fulham let you down. But moving on to match day 27, let's see if more of you can beat me this time. I'm back in form in both Premier League and Championship predictions, so hopefully my gambles here are going to pay off, because I've taken a gamble in the first game of the weekend. I've got a real feeling Brentford are going to beat Chelsea. Now, I've got to give a quick caveat and say I'm recording this on Wednesday due to work commitments, so there are 6 Premier League teams whose FA Cup games I can't take into account. Of course, you've got Wolves Brighton, you've got Forest United, Chelsea's game against Leeds is the other, as well as Liverpool Southampton. So I can't base my decision on those, but having played 120 minutes at the weekend and being frustrated towards the end against Liverpool, I do think Chelsea will rest a few in midweek anyway. I'm not sure that's going to help them on Saturday, because Brentford, let's be fair, 4 games unbeaten against Chelsea now, 3 wins and a draw in their last 4 league meetings against them. And I think they're going to do it again by 2 goals to 1. They've not been the best defensively, Brentford, but they've got a big threat going forward. It's just whether they can shore things up at the back a little, and I think there might be some changes there. For Everton v West Ham, what a day for Jarrod Bowen. Really good performance from him. Great strike from Emerson as well. I think this one might be a very different game. Everton, the style of attack they usually produce should go into West Ham's hands. The likes of Zuma should be able to deal with that pretty comfortably. Mavropanos will probably thrive on balls in the box as well. Will they have enough on a counter? Can actually see this being quite a poor game, but I'm going to go for West Ham to nick it 1-0. Fulham, great result at Manchester United to nick it late on after being pegged back. They're doing a brilliant job this season, having lost Mitrovic. I certainly expected them to drop a bit further, but they're picking up great results. And with Brighton playing in a cup in midweek, looking ahead to a big game in the Europa League next week, I just think maybe Fulham, with a decent home record this season, might edge this one by 2 goals to 1. Newcastle v Wolves, I'm going to go for the home win. Wolves weren't convincing against Sheffield United, but got a very good result, and Gary O'Neill's doing an excellent job. But for Newcastle, as the battle for Europe continues, I think we'll pop up with a good result here. 1 on penalties, of course, on Tuesday night. That'll give them a little bit of confidence as well. So I'm going to go for Newcastle to return to form at St James's with a 2-0 win there. Nottingham Forest Liverpool, I thought about doing the same as the Brentford Chelsea game, because of course Liverpool haven't got the value of rotation much. There were some people out on their feet at the end of that game. I mean, Luis Diaz couldn't move at the end of extra time. And then you've got the game on Wednesday against Southampton, where he's going to have to rotate a bit. But I just think in the title race, they're going to go for it properly, and they're going to go as strong as they can. So Nottingham Forest 1 at Liverpool 2, and that might harm them in the Europa League, but I don't think they'll mind if they can get the result there. Tottenham Palace, I think it's going to be a bit of a thrilling game. We got a glimpse into what the new manager's going to do at Palace. A little more high intensity, a little more high pressure. And they were very comfortable against a poor Burnley side. But for Tottenham, it's about finding some consistency again. Yes, they've got important players back, but they've not been great in the last couple of months, and it has just dropped off a little. If they want to stay in that race for the top 4, they're going to have to pick up a result. And I think they just about will. It's going to be a great game, this one, in my opinion. I'm going to go Spurs by 3 goals to 2. You know that I've gone for Luton 2, Villa 3. We'll see if I'm wrong on that one. Hopefully I will be. And then we move on to Sunday. A big game for Burnley against Bournemouth. You're starting to feel like it's last chance saloon, aren't you? They've probably got to win that one to have any chance of surviving. I'm not sure they will, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw because Bournemouth haven't been in great form recently either. 6 without a win in all competitions going into this one. They're still playing good football, and Burnley, of course, do struggle with balls into the box, so it'll be interesting to see if Bournemouth try and play into that. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw there. Manchester City v Manchester United in the derby. I mean, United will be petrified having watched Tuesday night. Haaland and De Bruyne are back to their best. Absolutely flying. Plenty of good support acts alongside them as well, and even rested 1 or 2 of their best defenders. Stones came off pretty early. Diaz stayed out of the game. I mean, City are going to win this comfortably. There's no doubt. United, the wheels coming off the wagon again. Talk about Ten Hag. It's going to be a City win, and I'm convinced it'll be easy. I'm going to go 4-1 to Manchester City. And Sheffield United, Arsenal on Monday night. Of course, there is a chance of a banana skin, but at home, Sheffield United, when they've tried to be aggressive against teams, they've just been pegged off so easily. Arsenal are in form. They're scoring goals for fun. They've got another midweek off before the Champions League returns, so it's going to be a slightly quieter one for them. And I'm going to go for them to win really handsomely by 4-0 at Bramall Lane. So those are my predictions for Matchday 27. Do you agree or disagree with them? Let me know in the comments below. Give me your predictions, and if you beat or match my score, you will get a shout out in the next recap. If you want more predictions, don't worry, because we are back tomorrow with a full weekend fixture list in the Championship, our flagship show. You can come and join us for that one. Thank you very much for getting involved as always. If you enjoyed it, please do put a thumbs up on the video, subscribe and turn that notification bell on to make sure you don't miss a thing. And as always, a big thank you to our partners HelloFresh UK for their continued support. You can find a link in the description for 60% off plus free delivery on your first box, with loads of quick and easy recipes, which for lazy people like me are absolutely fantastic. But thank you very much for getting involved as always. Your support is massively appreciated. And I'll see you back here next time as we return for Championship predictions tomorrow.